The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion concludes. There was a poorly chosen analogy, talk of Erica's lawsuit, and of course, lots of contentious moments with Kathy Hilton making her appearance. Hey, everybody, I'm your host, Blake McHugh, and welcome back to our live shared news update. Zach, we have so much to get into for part three of the reunion. Of course, before we do that, though, you've got to hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss any
Yes.
of our videos. Zach, I gotta know, now that it's over, how are you feeling?
Well, I feel like we have a lot of room for next season. And I think that's kind of like the point sometimes of these reunions because
Yes.
it just felt like there was a lot of unresolved between Kyle and Kathy,
Mm-hmm.
Kyle and Rinna, Kyle and Erica, Garcelle and Rinna, Garcelle and Erica. And then even with everything that happened at BravoCon recently with Dorit
Mm-hmm.
and Erica and did you see at the end? It was like Kyle and Kathy haven't seen each other since the reunion, and now it's
Yep.
BravoCon. Do you know when this was filmed? Was it like 3 months?
I mean, well, since BravoCon happened, I think maybe it was back in August. I'm not
That they
entirely
filmed the
sure
reunion?
when this was filmed. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm kind of just making up a month in my head. We'd have to look it up. I don't know. I feel like I don't love not being resolved. Like usually we get things. There's things come up for the next season, obviously, but we iron things out in the reunion. At least I don't know. I just feeling for Kyle a lot here. So I'm kind of like sad that we don't have another part or something else.
Well, what did Kyle do? Like, I don't really understand why Kathy's so upset with Kyle. And
Yes.
I just feel like Rinna and Erica, like, yeah, they were the ones that came for Kathy. And like, there's Kyle can't
Mm-hmm.
control them. She can't like tell her friend, like, she did defend her. Why
Yep.
do you think she's so
I
mad?
agree. Well, I agree wholeheartedly, and we're going to talk about that at the end of today's episode. Maybe kind of our theories or figure out
Okay.
what's going on with Kathy here. So let's just get into it. We're going to doing the most shocking moments as we've done in the past. We're going to go in order of how things played out on our TV screen. So the first moment that kind of made me like gasp, and I think the rest of the cast too, is when Erica was talking about her sex life. Now we obviously know she saw, or we all saw that clip in BravoCon when she said she's got a roster of men. So that wasn't anything surprising when I heard her say that. Then she said she had sex the night before coming to the taping of the reunion. Like, okay, a little bit of an overshare. Then she says, quote, "It's a relief that someone can stay hard the whole time." I
Ugh.
was
It's so unnecessary to like gloat about your sex life, but I think in Erica's situation, she's been married to someone who's older for a very long
much
time,
older.
and so she probably hasn't had good sex in a really long time. So I'm glad that she is now, 50 in her prime, looking fabulous and getting some good. I don't know what to say. How do I just getting some good
Intimacy, if we want to PG it. Some good
that? Good for
intimate
her.
time.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I don't mind
I
knowing.
Yeah, I actually thought the comment was hilarious. I just was not anticipating that to come out of her mouth, but I guess you never know what's coming out of Erica's mouth.
Never. She really blurts things out like all the time.
All the time. So I think that's a good segue into our next most shocking moment, which may have taken the cake for me out of all of them, was an analogy that we used. So before we get into it, we kind of start talking about Erica's lawsuit and, the victim's conversation and how she's had just really a very lackluster of empathy towards them. And at this point, she's saying that she doesn't care that the women have concern about Erica's lack of empathy for the victims. And here's why. She explains it using this analogy. She says, when the plane is going down, the flight attendants tell you to put your mask on first, then help the people next to you. While I
She's not
understand what
wrong.
she's saying, but the plane analogy, when what we're talking about are victims from
I
a plane
know.
crash.
Yeah, not the best joke. I mean, even though she explains herself pretty well sometimes, and I feel like she does
Yeah.
get persecuted. Like she is the center of conversation. Like I do think that there still isn't a lot of like humbleness and accountability regarding the situation. But
Yeah.
she did win that first case, and that was talked about, and Sutton congratulated her. So if she truly is guilty and able to get away with this, or she's just not get away with if she's not guilty, if she truly is innocent, and the truth will prevail, she has a journey ahead of
But
her.
here's my thing though. Even if I were innocent and I know that I'm innocent, or I'm not even involved, right? I'm not even in a lawsuit. I'm not part of this whatsoever. Zip zero. I'm not using a plain analogy
For sure.
to, even if I'm not even part of it, I'm not using any kind of plain analogy when you're talking about people who died from a plane crash.
Analogies don't work on Housewives. We see it in
They
Jersey.
do
We see it
not.
now. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to kind of hear Erica talk about all of the legal stuff. Obviously last year it was much more of a focus than this year. And,
Hmm.
I know you're going to bring up the earrings. I
Yes.
kind of agreed with the other girls. I was just like, why does she want them so bad? Like, and with everything that's attached to them.
Hmm. Agreed. So let's talk about the earrings then, because that was kind of all wrapped up into this legal talk of most shocking moments was when Andy was asking her about it, and Andy's like, "So you're trying to fight for them back? We're on appeal for legal reasons." Her response was so just stoic, and like I feel like she's got something with Andy this reunion, because I don't know if you remember, but I believe it was in part 1 or part 2, but she did say to Andy, "I'm a little bitter. Like we'll get to you later." She said something like that in one of the
Yeah,
earlier parts of the
yeah.
reunion. So there's
Well, I
something
think
going on there.
I think Andy was really hard on her last year at the reunion, like really drilling in on her. And like, even though you sign up to do this show in your life, I think Erica's biggest complaint is that her life is such a spectacle. I mean, it is the most scandalous, so that's the reason why. But she really does, get asked so many personal questions, way more than all of the other ladies. So I think she is taking some of that frustration out on Andy. Maybe she took it out on Kathy this year. She was trying to divert the attention onto someone else. I understand why Erica is a little exhausted, but she's
But
carrying the show. She has a job.
don't you don't you think if Erica were to respond appropriately, meaning showing empathy, maybe giving a little bit iota of some kind of explanation that she can give, that she did give when Andy was grilling her at last year's reunion. When Andy grilled her at last year's reunion, I understood Erica so much more clearly. I felt like she didn't I still would like more from her when it comes to the victims, because in life you should care about other people whether or not you're legally or lawfully involved. Just in life you should care.
For
um
sure.
but so I feel like if she actually gave appropriate responses to people's questions, she would get a lot less questions and a lot less grilling.
If she was nicer and softer and sweeter, then it would be different for her. There was that one scene where she was talking to her therapist about not wanting to become this evil,
Mm-hmm.
mean person. And I
Yes.
hope that we get a new Erica next year. I'm actually dying to know what the filming status is going to be and who's going to come back. Since, that probably might start up in the next few weeks. So I'm just interested to start getting the tea on the next season.
I know. I think that they're kind of all in a bad place right now. And then also when you were talking, you brought up therapy. So this was the next point of most shocking moments, was that Erica actually admitted that she was disappointed, she used, in her behavior all season long, that she's going to therapy through to work through A, how she acted, and then B, to actually work on correcting that behavior. I was a little taken aback to hear that she was in fact disappointed, because it's so little that we hear Erica take kind of accountability or self-reflect in that way.
Yeah, and we did see her cry a little bit towards the end when
A
she
little
was
bit,
talking
yes.
about stuff. So she finally like cracked that cold, hard shell
Mhm.
that she has. But one of my favorite parts with this situation is that, Garcelle really deserved justice. She went through a lot
Yes,
this
she did.
season, especially with her son Jax. And I loved seeing Garcelle call out Erica, call out Dorit, call out Kyle for
Mhm.
laughing about it, and her getting those apologies. And also, I know you touched on this in the news this week. Andy Cohen even apologized to Garcelle. Garcelle, I just think she really came out on top this reunion.
Oh yeah,
She
she
is so
did.
fabulous. And if anyone's gonna, end Erica or put Erica in their place, it's Garcelle. So I think that she is, getting some humble pie for once.
I'm curious though if you think that Erica's apologies are lackluster, because for me they are. She says, yeah, I how I acted was wrong.
Yeah.
It's always like, yeah, shouldn't have said that. It's
You know
just
what?
like there's no.
You're
Go
gonna
ahead.
get what you're gonna get with certain
I
people.
know.
I think that like the longer people are in your lives, because we all accumulate friends and coworkers and like neighbors for so many years, you just have to learn to accept people for who they are and what they are able to give, because you're just never gonna no one's ever gonna live up to anyone's expectation, and you can't just throw away a friendship because some people aren't good at certain things. So if she says she's sorry and she means it, you just gotta accept it and move on, and that's what Garcelle did. She accepted it. It was wrong, but she still accepted it.
I think I think that's what Garcelle though, and I was kind of with Garcelle on this point where she said something like, if she says, I accepted the apology, but I can't keep talking about it because she apologized, but the apology wasn't enough of what I needed, but I look crazy if I keep talking about it because she did say she was sorry. But I was kind of like
Mm-hmm.
with her, I'm like, it wasn't like when you get an apology from somebody, you want a little bit more depth. You don't want somebody to just be like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So I feel like I was
and
like
maybe
really
they'll
on board
talk
with her
about
there.
it. Maybe they'll talk
Maybe.
about it next season, and maybe Garcelle will express that she needs more, and then Erica will be like, "This is what I can give you," or however she talks. And it's really just about like accepting things so you move on for yourself and you don't hold grudges. But one thing really
Sure.
interesting that Candy Burris said at BravoCon is that these fights happen and you have to replay them and relive them
Mm-hmm.
3 times when it happens,
When it
when you
happens.
do the interviews, when you watch it on TV and the fans react, then you go to the reunion. It's just like exhausting to keep talking about the
Yeah.
same things over and over again. How many times do we have to revisit things?
And I'm sure hard to then move on too when it's continued to be talked about and talked about.
Please,
Okay,
let's move on.
so let's do just that, Zach, because we're going to move on to the next point, which is what I think we have all been waiting for from this three-part reunion is Kathy
Yeah.
coming into the conversation. So let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
Kathy. She kind of starts off to explain what went behind her anger at Kimasabi, which is the hat place that we all know Kyle threw the hat party, whatever. Kathy basically said
Mm-hmm.
she went into that party thinking that Kyle was gonna make it about Kathy, do a taste test of her tequila. I was a little confused of like how Kathy concocted that story in her head, but that's besides the point. Then she goes, Lisa Rinna orders the 818 tequila. Now this is the moment that shocked me. Lisa said in that moment that she was very supportive of Kathy's tequila and then apologized to Kathy if it came off any other way, or like she ordered 818 in spite of her. I mean, I was not anticipating an apology to Kathy coming out of Lisa's mouth at all during this.
Well, I think the Hiltons and the Kardashians are such frenemy families. They're such rivals.
Mm,
So I think that if Kathy expected this night to be about her, and then Lisa brought up the Kardashians, like, of course,
yeah.
Kathy felt a little triggered. And it was even interesting when Lisa Rinna said that on a later episode. She was like, Kathy is so jealous of the Kardashians.
Uh-huh. But were you surprised that that Lisa gave an apology at all to Kathy?
Yeah, I think that Lisa Rinna, she apologizes when she's wrong, not always, but sometimes because she's
Yeah.
wrong often. The issue here is with my problem is that Kathy is trying to blame Kyle for Lisa Rinna's actions, and it's not fair. And I feel like this almost comes across so much like Teresa and Melissa on Jersey, where like Teresa likes to blame Melissa for Margaret and Jackie, and then Melissa gets mad at Teresa for for Jennifer, and it's just like
Yeah.
you can't blame your friends' actions, like it's
I
not on
know.
them.
We are so I know you're like dying to
Get
to share
Jersey
all this.
back.
We are so we no, I to talk about why Kathy's mad at Kyle, and that is our almost
Oh,
that's our
true.
last most shocking moment. So I promise we're gonna get there. But I just thought maybe that this would have changed the trajectory though, also of how this conversation went, because Lisa started off soft, so I was like, oh, maybe
Hmm.
we're gonna get something here, but I was clearly
No, what you saw
dead
the
wrong.
trailer. You knew the biggest bully in
I
Hollywood was
know.
coming.
I
Do it.
know, but then I got lost in the sauce in the moment.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the drama was deep. Let's
The
continue.
drama was deep, and it wasn't just between Kathy and Lisa, it was also between Kathy and Erica. This is,
Hmm.
I think, one of the other moments that tops the cake for the most shocking of all is that Erica claims that Kathy had used a homophobic slur towards the DJ, calling him an effing and then the F word as the homophobic slur.
Yeah.
And we had heard rumblings but months ago that potentially this was the problem at the club. And then I sort of feel like that narrative went away. And then here it is again. And the way that Erica just said it, I don't know. I was like taken aback in that moment.
I mean, I think everyone wishes that this meltdown was filmed. We all wish we saw it. Ugh. It's frustrating to hear that Kathy said that. That was the what people said, and even
Well,
hearing what
allegedly.
Lisa Rinna said. Yeah, well, even what Lisa said about Kathy, she's going to take down NBC. She's going to take down Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Dorit is this. Sutton was this. It seems like there is way too much accusations for there not to be some truth, and maybe. Kathy Hilton obviously had this major meltdown and said so many things
Mm-hmm.
she didn't mean in the moment where she had this rage. I personally am offended if she said that slur word,
Yes.
obviously. However, like, I don't think Kathy's that type of person. And I don't think she meant half the things she said, even though she was just in a heat of rage. We've all been in rage once before. So I think Kathy just needs to take accountability for what she said and then own up to it. And then we can forgive her and move on. It just seems like she
Yeah.
keeps on calling them liars. And I'm sure that they
Mm-hmm.
are lying about some things, maybe, but they can't be lying about everything.
Yeah, and I just think, well, so when you're in a club, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard to not. I mean, if you hear that word or if you don't, but there's so many other factors too. If it's loud music, you could have misheard. Dorit and Kyle both seemed shocked by what Erica said, and Kyle actually did say that she had never heard that. Obviously, when Kathy was denying it, and you said earlier if there's somebody who's gonna like put Erica in her place, it's Garcelle. It's also Kathy with this comment saying, "I think I have a little bit more credibility than you do." I was like, okay, Kathy.
Well, I understand why Kathy wants to come for Erica and Lisa too, because this happened off camera. So I understand why
Mm-hmm.
Kathy's upset because Lisa and Erica are exaggerating this. They made it the whole storyline. Like they really were behind this when it could have just been a meltdown that we all moved on
Yep,
from in a day or two.
totally.
So, yeah. Wait, what would you say before that? What was the question?
There wasn't a question. It was just talking about kind of Kathy saying that I have a little more credibility than you do and really sticking
Oh
it to
yeah.
Erica.
Well, I was like,
I
good
just
for
was
Kathy
like,
for defending herself. That's what I wanted to say because she
got it.
let Erica and Lisa have it. And this is like the big dogs. This is the big leagues. Like that's how I felt at the reunion part 3. It was like the petty drama of Crystal and Diana and Dorit, like Sutton, like
Mm-hmm.
that happens in the beginning. We're on part 3. We got the big dogs involved. This is the biggest feud in Bravo right now. And what I was telling you about BravoCon is everyone was most wondering about Garcelle, Lisa Rinna, Erica. Like, this was the
Yeah,
hype of Bravo. Like,
I
these women
know.
are just giving us, like, the most drama and the biggest feuds and the biggest egos, too.
And then the other thing that like threw me for a loop too is that Bravo did an investigation. Their HR did an investigation into the claims of what Erica was saying, and they basically concluded that it was a she said moment, that there was nothing legitimate to hold on to basically find if Kathy actually said that or not. But it seemed to also shock the girls that Bravo had done an investigation. Because Garcelle
Well, it's
asked, who
serious.
did it? Who did it? Well, definitely it needs to be investigated.
There's a lot of investigations happening. This show became so toxic, and I liked that they talked about that too, about how the social media really took this into a whole nother world. And even
Yeah.
hearing them talk about TMZ and like the fact that they
Uh
can't even
huh.
do anything or go anywhere, like there's just so much speculation and heightenance around these women, which
Yeah.
is why they make such captivating television.
I agree. Okay, so let's talk about what you kind of touched on a little bit ago. Basically, Kathy denying everything that Lisa was said in the Sprinter van. And she basically said, "You're lying. I didn't say any of those things." Andy was like, "Well, what did you say?" And she said that she expressed she was disappointed in Kyle and she feels like Kyle hates her sometimes. And that's all we got that Kathy admitted to saying. And then she said, "Lisa, you're going to do a lie detector test." Now, I really agree with you. There's just no way that Lisa, I truly feel there's no way that Lisa could make up every single phrase and every single comment that she said, because Lisa has said that Kathy said a lot, and that would be a lot for one person to like kind of come up with and make up on their own.
I definitely think that Kathy said some of these things. I think Lisa maybe exaggerated it, or like it's like I said, we all say the meanest things sometimes. I mean, I haven't really in a while, but like I've
In
had
a
rages
while.
before when I was like a teenager. Like I definitely like I didn't. But I've had rages where I've just said the meanest things that I
Yeah.
don't mean. Right? I mean, it's kind of, Kathy is a lot older, so she thought she
Yeah.
was in private. It's interesting because she said, I thought Lisa was my friend. We were off
Uh-huh.
camera. I thought I could confide in her. And Lisa Rinna blew it out of proportion. So I see both sides here. I think that the most interesting thing is that Kathy said, and what do you think about this? Like, I'm going to take down NBC and Bravo. Like, that is giving, like, Denise Richards, bravo, bravo, effing bravo.
Totally. I think that there's some truth to both sides. And I think that there's some lies on both sides. Like, we know Lisa Rinna takes things out of proportions, like her saying that she was abused by Kathy Hilton. I mean, and that it was the most traumatic experience of her life. Like,
Oh,
I don't want to
please.
discount abuse, but I
True.
mean, I just don't. I feel like that's an exaggeration of what went on, you know? And then, so I feel like there are some exaggerations and some lies, but I feel like there's some truth to it too. And I think that's where kind of Kyle and Kathy are in a weird spot. So let's get into what you've been wanting to talk about since literally the get go of this panel.
This is the
Um,
tea.
one of the most shocking is that Kathy is mad at Kyle. And you've been saying this whole time, I don't get how Kyle is the one that she's mad at, and I'm with you here. Let's just break it down real quickly before we get into our discussion. So in the end, it comes down to just Kyle and Kathy trying to talk it out, right? Kyle says she wants to end in a better place with Kathy than where they started, and basically Kathy tells her that's not going to happen tonight. Um, and then she tells Kyle that Kyle is acting like a martyr and that's not fair to Kathy. And then she says, "You've only said two words." During this whole conversation, Kathy gets up and leaves without saying anything else to Kyle. And I just think Kathy is being so unfair to Kyle.
Me too. I see it like that too. And I think it's frustrating because Kathy Hilton is so hilarious and everyone loves to chant her, Kathy, Kathy. Like, it was like Kathy Khan. And
Yeah,
like people just excuse, just because she's so iconic and she has that hype factor, like she's just getting a lot of passes. And I just think that she's totally mistreating Kyle here. Like, she's the one that talked crap
I
about
agree.
Kyle. What did Kyle say
I
about her?
agree.
Like,
And realistically, what did Kyle do wrong? What, she didn't make her hat place event about Kathy? She didn't leave with Kathy at the club? I mean, that's no, you could be a little bit irritated, but that's no reason for you to go off and say unkind things about your sister and then treat her this way too. I think, like, playing devil's advocate, I think she wants Kyle to defend her more with Lisa, and maybe that's the issue here. But I'm sure Kyle believes that there's some truth in what Lisa's saying, and how do you defend somebody when you believe something else?
well, also, like, I think it's Kathy is upset that, she was brought onto the show with Kyle, being the main diamond holder, and she kind of just thought it would go different for her. So I think she's frustrated that the show turned on her and two of Kyle's best friends turned on Kathy and made it this
Yeah,
whole takedown of Kathy Hilton. And I think she is partially blaming all of that on Kyle, which I think Kyle obviously didn't have control over, but maybe she could have defended her sooner. But I think she tried to do her best, and Kathy has to fight her own battles. And she did.
I agree. Yeah, I think Kyle did try her best. She's like said multiple times, "Can we stop talking about this, guys?" And then she even left. She left one of the things where she was when Lisa Rinna started making comments uh, about Kathy. Like, I feel like she did sort of defend her, But I don't know. Kathy gives me, she's hilarious, but she gives me a little bit of like weird energy. I don't know if, did you watch Paris in Love?
I watched part of it, and I did want to bring up the Paris stuff because Paris was liking tweets that were offensive towards Kyle, and Kathy. I mean, I was shocked that she was just like, "Well, Paris is very protective of her mother." Like, no, your daughter shouldn't be instigating hate at Kyle. And I didn't like that Kathy was holding over the fact that, some people in Kathy's family, it trickles down to the cousins and the sisters, like, might be mad at Kyle. Almost like Kathy has this power over, like, the family.
I
And then when she
know.
brought up Farrah's wedding, and Kathy was like, good for her. I'm like, do you even
Good for
care about your
her.
niece's wedding? Like,
Well, that's what,
I don't like this narrative on Kyle. Like, I think she's such a
and
good person.
agreed. And during this whole time, it's like Kathy is not impacted whatsoever. She's unaffected. How are you not affected that your relationship with your sister is in a bad spot again? And then she's like, Kyle, why are you crying? Or you shouldn't be crying, or whatever. Like talking down to her and like not validating her feelings and kind of like demeaning her. And it's like, well, she's upset. She doesn't want a relationship with her sister that she loves to be in a bad place again. How are you not upset?
I know, but I think sometimes like older siblings like just show love differently. So I think maybe she's just being a little bit more tough. Like toughen up, Kyle, because she does care about Kyle. She gave her a hug, and she tried to fix it. And I really loved how at the end, Dorit, who is my favorite on the show, her friendship with
Queen.
Kyle is, yeah, her friendship with Kyle is so genuine. And I think next season, what's going to be exciting is that the girls are finally going to divide. It's going to be more even, and I think Kyle and Dorit are going to stick together, and I think Erica and Lisa are going to stick together. I don't think Kathy's coming back. I don't think she's going to film anymore. I think she's done. And I think all the other women are going to return. I think Diana's gone. And I think, oh, I hope Crystal's gone, but something tells me they'll keep her, maybe as a friend of. And then I think they'll bring in one new housewife.
I'm curious if Garcelle will stick around because she was not
She
happy. You could
will.
tell during this reunion, and on top of that, after everything with her son, I wonder if she does. They're either having to pay her a lot more, or she's like seriously considering not coming back. And by the way, did you see Kyle Richards' recent Instagram post?
I did see it. Did I tell you I also met
Because
Kyle this weekend?
yeah, I saw it. You're at the Halloween Ends premiere. But
Yeah,
her
yeah.
post sort of seemed like it was a goodbye post. Like, I'm exiting without telling you I'm exiting.
No, I don't think Kyle's ready to leave the show. I think that it was just a really rough season for her, and I think she just has so much scrutiny. And I really think that a lot of the reason why is because she is the main diamond holder. And we see this with Teresa, who's
Yeah.
way more controversial than Kyle is. But it's just like a lot of things just get put on Kyle because she's friends with everyone. It's her show. She's been on the longest. She has the sisters. So I just don't think it's fair. I think she's had a rough season, and a lot of people come at her. We're
Did you
Team
ask
Kyle
Kyle
here.
at all about how she is or where they're at or anything about the show?
She did touch a little bit on it. Basically what she said is that she can't control what Rinna does. And then I was like, I'm
Yeah.
so excited for the reunion. She's like, see, you are and everyone else is. I'm not excited. I'm not excited. So she was actually like
Yeah.
genuinely dreading it. And it seems like, that's the tea. She said, I can't
I mean,
control what Rinna does to
understandably.
Kathy. That's
I
the tea.
mean, I'm pretty sure that Kylan is not friends with Erica and Lisa any longer because it's been going around that she deleted all of her photos of the two of them off of her Instagram. So it'll be really interesting. But I wanted to go back to Dorit because we kind of touched on it. But I just thought that was the sweetest moment when she went in there and talked to her and she's like, I'll help you with Kathy. And she was like, and if, what did she say? I wrote it down. She said, oh, I don't know where it is. She said
She's had a lot of good
basically,
advice.
she had a lot of good advice. Oh, she goes, if she, referring to Kathy, if she makes you pay for the sins of others, then that's on her. And I was like, ugh, Dorit never said anything more intelligent. Like, beautiful.
Dorit's gotten so much smarter throughout the years, and I even think that this experience truly humbled her, the robbery in the beginning of the
Yeah,
season. So I'm excited to see where she goes next season, and I think that's kind of what, where we're leaving off. This is the
I
finale,
know.
part 3,
What do you
and
think was your most shocking moment, Zach,
of the reunion or of the season.
of this part three? Out of
I
the ones
think
we
just
talked about, I can recap if you want to, or if you just have one off the top of your head.
I mean, I think just like a lot of the drama with Kathy and Rinna was just interesting. I think that Kyle and Kathy, but I think the most shocking moment for me of the reunion was actually on part two when Lisa Rinna revealed that she threw Garcelle's book in the trash and that it wasn't
Yes.
Erica this whole time or Erica's garbage. That was shocking for me.
That was shocking. But we're talking about part three. So what was it? The plane analogy? Was it Lisa's apology? Was it Erica? What Kathy said? Was it Kathy denying the comments? Was it Kathy being mad at Kyle? What's your most shocking of from this week's?
I think just seeing Kyle and Kathy get to that place was just really shocking towards the
Yeah.
end.
I think the plane analogy for me, because that one I audibly gasped. And I think Kathy denying all the comments because she hasn't denied any until now. I mean, I guess she sort of has. She's sort of said at BravoCon interviews and recently that she didn't say the things that Lisa said, but I don't understand how she's denying it all.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I
just
don't
interesting that she said all those things,
Go
that
ahead.
Lisa Rinna is saying she
Yeah.
said all those things and she's completely denying it. Um, Maybe we need a lie detector test, like Kathy suggested.
I think we do. Now, we are live, you guys, so if you have any comments before we hop off, put them up there because we want to know what you guys are thinking. What was your most shocking moment?
Hmm.
How you're feeling, what your takeaway was for part three, if you're ready for season 13. I mean, there's so much that we can chat about. Um, but I think
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
probably it for us.
Let us know. I'm currently also watching a little. I'm getting into Potomac. Like with me and Housewives, I don't really watch every single episode, but I like really make sure to keep up. So I'm like starting to get into Potomac and Salt Lake right now since they are the two new ones. And I
Starting
mean,
to
of
get
course,
into, have you watched the other two seasons of Salt Lake?
yeah, yeah. Like no, as in like I've
Oh,
seen all the old
okay.
seasons. I'm just
Got
saying what's
it.
currently on right now. Potomac and Salt
Yeah.
Lake just started, so I think that there's already like 4 episodes out for each. So I've probably seen like two
Mm-hmm.
and a half of Salt Lake. Maybe two and a
We've
half
got
of
a lot of
Potomac.
good reality TV right now.
Yeah, are you watching the other Housewives?
I'm watching Salt Lake. Wow, is that the only? And then there's
Potomac.
Potomac, and then those are the only two that are on right now from Real Housewives. Now that Beverly Hills is wrapping up, right?
Yeah, those are the only ones. But
And then
there's
there's
like
also Winter House with
Southern
Bravo, but I'm
Charm.
not watching that. Yeah,
Oh,
and
I
Southern Charm
started
is
Winter
over though.
House. I watched the
Okay.
first episode. I thought it was okay. I'll probably like tune in and out throughout the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, all the best shows are gonna come back next year when Jersey comes back, and I'm excited for Vanderpump
Mm-hmm.
Rules and
There's gonna be a lot
even
of good
Orange
stuff.
County. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we got a lot of good TV to look forward to, but that's going to do it for us here on our most shocking moments from part three of the reunion. We do want to know what you guys thought of the entire reunion and what was your most shocking moment or your takeaway. So make sure you drop your comments down below. But before you do that, you've got to give this video a thumbs up. Zach and I do a lot of talking here, so show us some love, okay? Give us a like. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss any of our future videos. I'm your host, Blakely McHugh with Zachary Reality. You can find our social handles. They're just our names. It's easy on Instagram. Give us a follow, say hello, and we will see you next time, you guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.